Now, very early we mentioned the word step up, and afterwards how to transfer knowledge from science to politicians or policy making. But in between we have planners and administrators, and that's maybe a more practical topic. How do you see the challenge about transferring knowledge from the scientific world or research world into planning and guidelines and so on? SUSCOD has done some of the job, but where do you see the bottlenecks, so to speak? Yes, Jan?
I see the bottlenecks in Denmark, in the municipality, the capacity and capability of the municipalities. They don't have the expertise. It's when the expertise is outside among the scientists, among the consultants, so it's difficult for the municipality to formulate their own problems because you don't have the capacities. If we compare with the capacity, for instance, within climate change from heavy precipitation, there is utilities who can take this, and the funding is clear, and they can we can really make plans for the heavy rain situation. But when we go to the coast, the capacity is not inside, and it is with Merete here from Slagelse, but she is an individual because she is fighting and can see this. So we need capacities. We need Merete, and then we need something regional too. But we need something more.
Yes. Can you add to that? We'll take you.
Yeah, I will just follow the lines that Jan mentioned and say one thing that I see, because GEUS is a research institution, but we also advise the various other organizations, is that there's often a gap between, for example, geologists or biologists, and when it comes to legislation. So when the knowledge of the research and the understanding of the dynamics, when that has to be transferred into legislation, then it's so different worlds. So it's very difficult to get that to mix.
Yes. Okay.
Well, adding to that, I think one of the solutions to let's say embed the adaptation issue more in the day-to-day world of administrators and certainly on a municipal level could be to put more emphasis on integrating climate change into existing administrative instruments instead of communication. For instance, we have in Flanders something called a water test, where we have an EIA procedure, which you also probably have, zoning plans for spatial planning, when you can integrate climate change in a practical way, with norms and procedures into these instruments. I think it will be much easier for these administrators to take into account this complex and long-term issue.
Okay. But that's more or less,
and that's what's
even a level beyond the municipalities.
It's for on all levels, I think, relevant. And that's a process which is ongoing now in Flanders.
Okay. Yes.
And
Pierre?
I'll again return to the focus, because the focus will be where the politicians' focus is, I think, because it's where the funding is. In Denmark, we've seen the focus up to COP15 on flooding, especially from the sea. Then there was a little bit of drop until our capital was hit by rain 2 years, 2011-12, I think. Now we've got a national climate plan dealing with precipitation. And now every municipality has to handle that in a kind of an action plan, ensuring that that will not happen again. And again, it was a kind of disaster that was the driver. So I would like the politicians to step up and for each municipality make a plan for their coastal zone, before a disaster hits, because then it's disaster management, and that is not always integrated coastal zone management.
Even though we don't have a hand microphone, I'll still ask you, what is the situation in your countries? Do we have a similar situation like we obviously have in Denmark, that there's a lack of capacity at the municipal level? How is it in your countries? What do you say?
In the Netherlands, in general, we have the same problems, I think, because the municipality is not only dealing with climate change, but a lot of other policy-making issues. So,
Yes.
And in Holland, the central government is defining the policy and all the execution of some policy issues to the lower level. So the pressure is going on and on.
So it's a similar situation in the Netherlands, that there's a state engagement, but it needs to be decentralized.
The execution is in the
Yeah, but maybe they lack instrument, or it's a need for integrating into existing instruments.
On state and province level, on high governmental bodies, there the integration is already, let's say, implemented, but
Okay.
on municipalities not always.
What about Scotland? Do you have?
I think definitely resources are an issue. Human and financial are key here.
Yes.
There's another one, and that is advice and consent.
Okay.
If we ask statutory agencies, our colleagues, do you think it's a good idea to regenerate a coastal area using soft engineering? They'll say, absolutely, yes, you're right on. Then you say, can you give me consent? And then, oh, well, no, that's a problem. And often that gets you into all sorts of difficulties with strategic environmental assessment, EIA, and yes, if it were integrated into the process, but it becomes a barrier.
Okay.
Say, well, I have a great project, but I can't afford to hire a consultant to do a SEA or an EIA.
Okay.
It scares me off. Let's just drop the whole idea.
So we can say there's a similar bottlenecks also in Scotland regarding the commitment or the practical capacity at local level.
Yeah.
Yes. You have a comment, Jan?
I think one important thing is that the speed of erosion will rise or be much faster when you have even a quite small raise, sea level raise. So you have to take this into account also. So it's not just a question of measuring how many more centimeters.
There's a comment that by having higher sea level, the erosion is also getting more intense. Is that an experience you can confirm?
Yeah, the coastal morphology, for instance, is also speeding up with the sea level rise. So you will have many other elements, not just the level is going up.
Yes.
But I think with the sea level rise, the way we used to do it is that if we have to plan for a coastal area and we need a dike or we need something, we put up which risk should we deal with for this dike, and then it determines the height, and then we see should we put some extra to take into account for the climate change. Would you like to have this deteriorated the next 10, 20 years? Yeah. And then within 20 years, you will have not a 100 situation, you'll have a 20 years situation. Then people can see, okay, let's make half a meter more now. Okay.
Yes, yeah.
It's I think this is very simple to explain.
Yes. Yeah.
What I really like about the SUSCOD project is that there's been made this focus on risk as, let's say, value and consequences, or probability and consequences. And if you can make people understand that, then I think it's more easy to plan in an integrated way, that you can have, let's say, some protection, and then you have the risk in a certain level, but then you can increase the risk by putting extra values in the protected area. And most people do think that the risk only increases with climate change. they don't see that they, by planning, can increase the risk by putting in valuable assets in the flood-protected area.
Yes.
So that's something I think that will be a benefit from this project.